Hey, how's it going? Nate English here. It's Wednesday, it's time for a workout. What workout, you might ask? Well, today I want to encourage you to have a recovery ride. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to have a recovery session today if that doesn't work for your schedule, but I wanted to highlight the importance of having recovery sessions and days off in your overall training program, especially being somebody that has trained at a very high level and trained many days per week throughout my history as an athlete. I know the value of taking days completely off or days very easy. And just in the big picture, it's always good to keep in mind that our harder workouts are kind of what drive our fitness forward, but they don't actually accomplish any gains in fitness. It's the hard workouts accompanied with adequate recovery that helped us progress and get stronger and fitter and become better athletes. So usually you might plan on doing, let's say, 2 or 3 pretty high quality sessions each week, and then you might do 2 or 3 or even 4 easier sessions throughout the week. So those easier sessions might contribute to your overall aerobic conditioning and your overall volume, but it'll be relatively comfortable and pretty easy so that you can recover and get fitter and get stronger so that you're fresh going into those harder sessions, so you can do longer sessions or do more intense sessions or both. We want to make sure that we create that training stress and we adapt to it, and we want to plan our training so that those days are usually, but not always, separated, and it's time and nutrition and sleep between hard workouts that allow us to recover. So on those days where we want to take it easier and we want to facilitate recovery, a lot of times doing an easier session where we keep our heart rate low, we keep our effort level low, and we finish the session feeling as refreshed or more so than we did at the beginning of the ride is kind of our goal. We want to not add stress, not add fatigue, but maybe just do a light session that's going to flush out the legs, get our body moving, get our blood flowing, and help us to feel good for tomorrow or the next day, whenever our next harder session is. And sometimes if you're feeling really sore or really tired, or your time is just really important and you're not going to get a lot of benefit from doing, let's say, an hour or 2 of riding or 30 to 45 minutes of easy running, for example, it might make the most sense to just take the day completely off. And in general, I think that if you keep your workouts kind of prioritized and you think about your training as far as, like, let's say you have Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are your key sessions, all of the other days, most of the time you could think about, just eyeing them as recovery days where you could do an easy session or you could do a day off. Usually keeping the same routine week after week throughout your year is going to make the implementation of your training plan the easiest and the most effective, because you can just know every day that you're doing whatever it is that you're planning on doing that day, and you keep it the same routine week after week, and you know how to eat and recover and sleep throughout each training cycle so that it can be done effectively. But if you have some flexibility or if you have extra demands on your schedule, it can be okay to, for example, go easy on Friday and take Sunday off, where normally you take Friday off and you go easy on Sunday, or vice versa. And if you are doing very high volume training and higher demand training, like the intensity is a little bit higher, then sometimes taking days completely off can be really good, but just be aware that after a day off, a lot of times you might feel flat the next day. So if you're planning on setting up for a hard workout tomorrow, it might be better to do a very light session today. If you know that you have a couple of days to get ready for the next hard session, then taking a day completely off can be fine, and you can see how you feel tomorrow and maybe do a light session, maybe do a few openers so that you're ready for the hard workout the next day. Overall, I would not focus too much on power if you are a cyclist and you're trying to do your easy session. Obviously, you don't want to spend extended periods of time at higher power outputs, but short periods where you're at or above threshold for a few seconds is really not going to make a big difference to your overall training, because our creatine phosphate energy system allows us to feed into some, brief periods of anaerobic effort without really creating much extra demands on our body. We do want to make sure that we don't do sustained periods of high power where we drive our heart rate and breathing up, and we don't want to push hard enough that our muscles kind of like have that burning or aching sensation. So if you live someplace like I do where it's hilly around the bay, mostly I might keep it around 50 to 65% of my threshold power throughout my ride. But if I do like 80, 90, 100% of threshold for a few seconds going up a switchback on a climb, I don't really care, but I am pretty diligent about making sure that it feels easy, that it feels refreshing, and at the end of the ride, I'm feeling good and ready for the next session. And I'm trying to pay attention to my heart rate to make sure that it doesn't come up very high. And I'll also be attentive to, for the effort and the power that I'm doing, if my heart rate looks pretty normal, or if it looks unusually low, because if you are extra stressed, you're maybe a little behind on calories, and your body's nervous system is not as responsive to the intensity that you're doing, I might consider whether or not that's feedback that I might want to delay my next hard workout, or at least be attentive to how I sleep that night and how I feel the next day before I just go into the next workout without thinking about whether I need extra recovery. So you can definitely use those recovery sessions to, spin out the legs, get your blood flowing, get your heart rate very slightly elevated but not very high. And you can also use them as feedback to know how recovered you are. And definitely, even if you're doing just a short, easy session, if your overall training program is pretty demanding, make sure that you're still getting in decent recovery food and good hydration on your recovery days. So I remember when I was racing professionally and training pretty hard, I might train 15 to 18 hours a week many of those weeks. A lot of times it wasn't even 15 hours a week, but I would have very hard days where I would do 5 or 6 hours. It would maybe be 5,000 kilojoules of work on the bike, and there's no way on those days that I was going to eat 7,000 calories, but I might eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories, and then the next day when I was recovering, I might only do like 500 or 600 kilojoules on the bike, and my energy demands on that particular day might only be 25, 26, 2,700 calories, but I might eat 4,000 calories because I'm still in a hole from the day before. And so it's okay if your calorie expenditure has big spikes and valleys, and you just kind of smooth that out with your calorie intake. And the big things that drive our recovery, again, are just time between workouts, so all the processes in our body can happen and we can build up new enzymes and get fitter. But we also need nutrition and hydration and sleep. So always focus on getting good sleep. Keep eating, a little bit of protein all your meals, taking into account your total calorie demand in your training plan as a whole and not just that day. And be sure to stay hydrated and keep getting electrolytes even if you're not sweating a lot and doing a big session that day. Because if you did do a very hard session the day before, you might still be a little behind on your hydration and on your electrolyte replenishment. So do all the same practices that make for a good training session, but maybe just tone it down a little bit because you might be doing a quarter of the calorie expenditure and a fraction of the stress that you would have been doing on one of your harder days. So anyway, that's it. I hope you have a great training week, and remember, good training sessions are what drive our fitness forward, but all of our easy and off days are what help us to recover to actually get fitter. So keep that in mind in the big picture of how you're approaching your training, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.